Guardian. One of my absolute favorite professions, if not my actual favorite profession, seems to also be a little bit of the favorite child for ArenaNet. At least that's how it feels sometimes. From the string of balance patches where Guardians and the Elite specs never saw notable nerfs, to those very same balance patch notes actually giving Guardian buffs, Guardian is in a very comfortable place at the moment. And yes, this video has been inspired by the current Reddit discussions on classes and favorites, but this is honestly a topic I've been pondering for many months now. Ultimately, this just feels like the internet universe telling me to throw my chip into this big cybernetic hat. So, let's get started. Guardian has always been that go-to profession for those who wish to take a more supportive or protective approach to Guild Wars 2's combat, and it is widely advertised as such. With these general routes the devs took and continue to take with designing how the Guardian fights, current-day Guardians see a great accessibility and easy accessibility to many, many boons. If one were to be building into a boon support playstyle, they'd be one of the best boon supporters. But such accessibility even allows power or condition damage builds to pump out powerful boons to themselves or allies. Call me a purist, a Brita filter even, but I take just a hint of umbrage with these designs, but really only when they get to the level that Guardian is currently at. Hybrid builds are always interesting, and I feel as if there should be more of a place for them, but I also believe that such builds should require specific skill and a build direction to pull it off. In my opinion, and what seems to be an echoed opinion in some corners of the community, Guardian is able to take advantage of its current hybrid abilities while not having to execute a greater level of skill. At the moment, Guardians feel like a one-man army. Spicy burns and flat damage, wards and other controlling effects, boons and heals for others, and boons and heals for themselves. Just like Dr. Leonid Rogozov, it's like performing your own appendectomy while burning down a whole village at the same time. Let's take a look at some of the Guardian's abilities to really examine the potency of this class. First and foremost, Symbol of Blades. It's a prime example of an ability doing just a little too much. It's a teleport, an AoE blind, it places a light field, as all symbols do, though I would even argue that not all of them need to. It pulses Fury on a consistent basis, and pulses damage, all at the same time, while affecting 5 targets. I would consider removing the blindness from this skill, as it offers too much of an ease of going in. One may argue that it's a high-risk skill teleporting into a fight, or onto another enemy, but I would argue that these high-risk moments should be just that, high risk. Adding a blind onto this offers too much of a guarantee for the Guardian, and makes it somehow, in my opinion, unfairly too easy for them. Next, we have Protector's Strike. It started off as a really pure and simplistic weapon skill, but through the years, as with most of Guardian and we have of course seen with other professions, boons and added perks just seem to be thrown at it to buff the power of the skill. What originally dealt high damage when attacked and offered protection if not attacked, now this ability continues to deal very high damage, apply protection and Aegis to 5 allies around when struck, even charge the passive effect of Virtue of Justice to allow for now burning damage, and now has its radius expanded to make it even easier for this skill to trigger. This one skill covers all of the grounds of Guild Wars 2 combat, power and condition DPS, support in the form of powerful defensive boons for the Guardian and also allies, and also a bruiser tankiness as the skill blocks an attack, and even a second one if your Aegis gets blocked as well. I would strip this skill down a bit and remove the Aegis application, as it already offers the Guardian or one of their allies a block which requires this ability to activate. Another block seems a bit more bloated than needed. I also would take away the Virtue's passive effect, Charge, as it bloats the skill just to seemingly bloat it. This weapon is not condition-oriented to begin with, and just feels like an extra dollop of excessive Guardian love. Especially considering that it charges your Virtue one passive effect, which is Burning, and as we have seen, Burning is so strong, to begin with, that you don't need to build into condition damage to see real use out of the burning condition. I do find the damage, the protection, and increased radius to be enough for this skill. Next up, we have Zealot's Flame. Zealot's Flame is so chonky, like fat cat type chonky. This skill pulses 4 burning and AoE around the caster, and it's unblockable. This ability then can flip over to Zealot's Fire, where you shoot a fireball for 3 additional burning and strong flat damage. And the kicker, the passive AoE burning around the Guardian does not end if you choose to shoot the fireball. Most other types of skills with a flip over mechanic often remove the previous effect if the second skill is used, but not for the Guardian. Case in point, Warrior's Mace 2. And even within the Guardian, Shield of Absorption, and then detonating the Shield of Absorption. Guardian sees even more abilities that are buffed to high hell in their elite specializations. Now, I must admit that I am a personal fan of Dragon Hunter's design, as it's rather simplistic and focused on what it wishes to accomplish. However, Firebrand is one of the most egregious when it comes to power creep and bloating skills, as has recently been pointed out by Reddit. First and foremost, the axe symbol. The axe symbol is a bit extra in my opinion, and can be tamed back by simply getting rid of the cripple condition. The axe already has a pull on the 3, and in my opinion, the cripple might not be necessary in the weapon. One of the main issues with Firebrand, though, has to be with the tomes themselves. In Core Guardian and Dragon Hunter, the F1, F2, and F3 skills are singular and only activate once. But with the Firebrand, each tome has 5 skills that allow the Guardian to become an expert in that tome's style of play, without really needing to build into it. So this totals up to 15 extra skills available to all Firebrands at the same time without having to make any decisions based on your certain build. F1 allows Firebrands to become experts in condition damage, F2 in healing, and F3 in boon support and increased defenses, which also aid allies. What I would have rather enjoyed in the Firebrand's design would be for the Guardian to have to commit to only one tome, instead of having all 3 available at all times. Perhaps one would still have the core virtues, but you would choose one tome to fully become an expert in that virtue. So for example, you'd have Virtue of Justice and Virtue of Resolve, but choose to go into the Tome of Courage and specialize in that virtue. In this case, the tome could have its pages refilled over time through a duration, allowing them to feel somewhat like a kit. And also have the abilities be more varied and specific in its design. As Firebrands have all 3 at once, the design led to a more generalized layout for each tome. This layout goes as follows. 1 is your standard cone, 2 is your AoE around you, 3 is your targeted AoE, 4 is your massive AoE around you, and 5 is a special effect on allies. We could take a look at the various bloated traits, which definitely do not help the situation, but this would just become a bit too excessive. Kinda like some of these Guardian skills. Ultimately, as time has gone on, the purity of the game has become muddied in areas, and in Guardian, I feel as if this profession is the prime example of the situation. This video could be extended to other sectors of professions where bloat has become more normalized, but what I ultimately want to leave with is Guild Wars 2's combat is phenomenal, but it's perhaps getting a bit too chaotic. Human nature always sees us wanting more and more, but sometimes we need to know when to pull the reins back and enjoy the simpler things to life. Thank you for coming by and listening to me ramble about Guardian. I truly appreciate it. If you'd like to help support the channel, there is a Patreon link down below. Subscribing, liking, and commenting and sharing and all that stuff definitely helps out. And I would love to hear your thoughts about Guardian or maybe any other profession you think is a little overly bloated. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, everyone. Mwah.